This is the Albuquerque Business Podcast with your host, Jason Rigby. Each week, we interview leading local business leaders to inspire the vision and spirit that is in every entrepreneur, discussing strengths, weakness, strategies, systems, and the problems we can all solve together to fulfill a shared vision of a new future for Albuquerque.
This is Jason Rigby, and welcome to the Albuquerque Business Podcast. Today, we have a special guest. We have an MMA fighter, and Tim, I know you're on Instagram. You've got the little blue check mark on there. That's awesome. What's your Instagram?
It's Tim Dirty Bird.
Oh, okay, cool. So where did that name come from, if you don't mind me asking?
I wish I had like a tough story, but it was a bad haircut. So
it was a bad haircut?
Yeah.
You're in Albuquerque?
State wrestling. Yeah, state wrestling. You know, we dyed our hair. All the high school kids dye their hair that funky color, and I wanted mine blonde with red tips.
Right.
That did not happen. It turned into some smudge. And
so was it like one of those rubber chickens? Was it like the yellow and the red?
Yeah, it was. It could be a rubber chicken. So I'm glad the Dirty Bird stuck and not the rubber chicken.
Yeah, that's cool. So, and then you're also on Twitter too.
Twitter, yeah, @meanstim.
Oh, okay, cool. Yep. And how many, like, I know when we look at UFC and we kind of look at the fighting, it's real popular here in Albuquerque especially. How many fights have you done in the UFC?
I have 19 fights in the UFC, 40 fights total.
Oh, wow. So that's a lot of fighting.
Yeah, a lot of fighting since 2004, and it's been ups and downs, and heck, it's been a heck of a ride.
That's cool. And then your last fight, I actually watched. It was on a fight night, UFC fight night. And kind of take us through that. What happened in that scenario? Because I know you experienced an injury.
Yeah, you know, I come out in the first round, and first exchange, we get tangled up a little bit. Our lefty versus righty, front feet got tangled, knocked me down. I wound up getting a takedown, started to win the rest of the fight, or rest of the round, and had him dialed in. I heard that 10-second count, or what I thought was a 10-second count, a clap, and I just heard him with strikes, came running in, and he threw a right hook that caught me off the top of my head. And as I was falling, I thought I could be quick enough to just get a backwards roll in, and it happened so quick, my foot wound up getting stuck, broke my ankle and my fibula. But you know, watching the fight, there was a lot of good things to take from it. I've been shying away from my wrestling and my ground game that I do have, and only wanting to be a striker, making people shoot first. And rewatching my last two fights that I had, those things that we're working on in the gym are starting to show. And there's more wins to take from. I didn't get my hand raised that night, and I should have dealt with an injury that I sustained that night or whatever. But a lot of positive to take out of that, and I want to finish off where I left off, so hoping for November.
That's cool. And what, like, you know, with MMA, it's mixed martial arts. What's kind of like your specialty? What have you trained most on?
Man, I started out as a wrestler and a ground guy. Cool. So, you know, we were talking earlier, my gel stint and trouble stint that I went through. After I went and did my gel stuff and came out, then I was only a boxer, you know, and I did a lot of fights where I chose to only stay on my feet. So my last two fights that we were just talking is I'm hoping to be a well-rounded mixed martial artist. And you know, I said in a lot of interviews, if I want to box, I need to go only box. If I'm going to kickbox, go to Glory or Lion fights. But mixed martial arts is intriguing in so many ways to finish people.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that would be, you know, that's something that's interesting. I know this is the Albuquerque Business Podcast, and I have an MMA fighter on here because I feel like it's so important, especially in business and being an entrepreneur. I mean, literally, a lot of guys get their teeth kicked in, you know, maybe not physically, but I mean, you're out there, you're failing all the time. You feel like you train, open up a business, that one fails, you got to start all the way back over again. So I feel like there's a lot of correlations with fighting and business.
Right, and that's what it feels like. Like, so every fight is the new business you're opening. You're either going to succeed or you're going to fail in that business. And the mentality that you have to keep, you have to stay strong, and you have to deal with the adversity in not only in the gym and in the cage, but out in life, you know, such as your kids going to school and dealing with things, getting them to their practices, getting your taxes paid, all these other issues, or I don't want to say issues because that sounds bad, but other types of responsibility that go with the process. So you have to be a tough, insane individual to choose to be a fighter and plus be responsible and take responsibility for the things you do in everyday life.
Yeah, because the training alone is, we were talking earlier about training, you had to come off of an injury and then now you're training.
Right.
And it's really hot. It kind of explained that to everybody. Like, what does a training day look like for you?
We'll just go with the guys that have been training now. In the gym, if it's 105 outside, it's 110 in the gym. We have some fans, a couple small little ACs or whatever, little portable ACs, but it's hot. And you got to train. You have to be uncomfortable. You have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
That's
best way to look at this. So with that being said, we're in the heat where we're in there 5 days a week, sometimes 3 times a day. For me, I have my strength conditioning early in the morning. I have my rehab and recovery that I'm doing currently now on the balance and the ligaments because the bone's healed up.
Right.
But conditioning the ligaments and Bosu balls and those little bands that, man, those things don't look tough, but they are awful.
Those big, the like real thick rubber bands.
The little skinny ones all the way to the thicks.
Yeah.
That whole family is not cool, right? So
I always picture like girls with them like on their, like doing their inner thighs or something. I never.
Yeah, it's pretty sensitive
ruthless
stuff. Yeah, it looks pretty sensitive from the outside. Where you're like, I'm going to kill that workout. Then you get in that workout and you're like, well, that was awful.
So band workouts kick ass. Yeah.
Oh, they're rough, man. They just are. So you see everybody in their little fruity little shorts and stuff. You want to make comments?
Don't.
No, yeah, it's way rough. It's way harder than it looks.
Yeah.
I recommend it. But conditioning those bands or conditioning those ligaments. So I've learned a lot of things over the years of trial and error with just my nutrition or exercise. The way you work out muscles, you need to work your tendons and ligaments out the same way. You got to condition those things and treat your body well and get the maintenance and upkeep and then be on with your nutrition. And man, it's a whole degree that's been put into this over the years of trial and error for myself. Right now, coaching's in the horizon. We're getting ready to move gyms at Fit in HB, move buildings to 12th and Candelaria, a bigger location, newer gym. So I'm excited for the future and a program that we're going to be having come out for the kids where they can compete. Cool program we just signed on. We're going to get ready to announce it here soon, so I'm stoked by that program.
Oh, that'll be really cool.
And
so
with the youth,
parents out there listening to this.
Yeah, so we're going to have a cool program we're going to announce. I don't want to say the name just yet. I want it to be announced and have all the cool colors and ribbon band and all that.
Will you put it on your Twitter or Instagram?
Yeah, I'll put it out on there. And
okay,
I've already started reaching out. We got a team captain that's going to be coming in, a local kid named Sergio Gutierrez. His brother was Hondo Gutierrez, who just graduated from Rio Grande, state champ there. Young man's getting ready to turn pro himself. We're working out some issues, but I'm stoked with what we got happening with the gym right now.
And a lot of people don't realize, but you were from Albuquerque, right?
I was born in Wilburton.
Right.
My mom moved to Moriarty over the mountain here when I was 2, and then I've been here ever since.
The whole time. So you've done, between the wrestling and training and everything, it's all been Albuquerque based?
Moriarty based in Albuquerque, Seagull High School and Moriarty High School. I went to Del Norte for a little bit, but I've been in New Mexico, and I'm a green chili guy now.
That's cool. Yeah, so kind of one of the things, like you said, you're training like up to 3 times a day in 110 degrees. So like I want business owners to understand like pushing your limits, like, and it being mental, because I know a lot, like you said, every fight is kind of like opening a new business because you're, looking at your component, you're having to study. There's a lot of, so like pushing your limits, like when you're training, when you go into a fight, what does that look like for you? Like, how do you mentally prepare for that?
Just being ready with being uncomfortable. We talked about my saying earlier. I have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's my go-to saying in my head. And it makes it to where I can't sleep at night. It makes it to where I know I'm going to get the job done. And knowing that, man, you might go get the keys to unlock a new business or whatever, but I got a guy that's in another gym, state, country that's trying to come try to kill me.
Right.
So the motivation is there.
Right.
Exactly. And then, I hear a lot of people complain with the pay scale with the UFC, which, heck, I think I'm worth more money. Heck, we all do,
Mm-hmm.
But the UFC is a place where I've been able to make a living. I've been able to do this fighting thing because, man, I had all the cool belts with King of the Cage, and they're not a program, they're not an organization that's going to pay you top dollar right out the gate.
Right.
But their resume does help you to get to that's like our junior college, I guess you could say, if we're thinking of a degree standpoint, So there's so many ups and downs like we talk about, and I'm so thankful to be able to do something that I want to do, and I don't have to go punch that time clock. And having that in the back of my head makes mentally tough just in that because I choose my life.
Yeah, and that makes it nice there. You were talking earlier, this is interesting because anybody that follows UFC, I'm a UFC fan, you guys have that, in Vegas, you have that Performance Institute.
Yeah,
and you were talking about how, because there's so many people coming into UFC now and it's becoming so big. ESPN just came on.
Yep.
On that Performance Institute, like you get like meal plans, or they like you went to Vegas and then trained or went to nutritionist? What was that about?
Yeah, so when I fought Rick Rainey in November, I'd been there a couple times already, but you go there, they have the nutritionist Mark Wattenberg, they have Heather Lindland that heads off the rehab and the conditioning part of it, making sure you're tuned up and everything's ready to go, injury prevention, that type of stuff. So you have strength conditioning coaches there, second stories, they have boxing gym, workout bag, stuff where you can work out in there. So it's cool to have those things because those guys have degrees in what they're doing and they're teaching us how to take care of ourselves, such as Mark with the nutrition. He's teaching us, and I was blown away by it, where I'm eating more food, such as the proteins, the carbs, the good fats, right? Where I have more food on my plate than I can actually finish, such as asparagus and chicken and avocado. Right. And it's not just like a couple spoonsful of avocado. It's an entire avocado.
Oh, wow.
And 16 ounces of asparagus.
So the
4 ounces
restriction
of protein.
thing is not really, as long as you're eating the right food.
Once you start getting closer to the week and you have a scale, well, of course, we have to tone back on the calories a little bit. But all the way through these camps that I've had since, I started working with George Lockhart back in 2012. And he just gave me a real good view on it, a real good nutritionist, a guy that prepares the food. And once I realize what I'm looking at, then I can do it myself, What's happened with this sport is deaths have been coming from cutting weight, lots of them. Maybe not in the UFC, but there's been people standing on that scale that look like they're going to die.
Right.
Now California's adapted the policy of, you can't be over a certain threshold or a certain percentage of weight on fight night. They actually just made a young lady move up that just fought recently on a main event. I can see her face, but I can't think of her name. She just fought Ronda Ladd. There you go. So the things I can be thankful with in this, they're teaching me how to take care of myself, my business. And,
what's your view on the weight cutting? Because I know it's like some people think it's controversial. Some fighters like it. Some don't. Like some want to get it eliminated, and just fight your walking weight.
That's not a bad idea because everybody's cutting weight. And when I grew up as a wrestler, so the cutting weight was the thing you did.
Right.
It kind of went with the territory, really. It wasn't something that I think anyone told me to do. I just seen everybody else doing it, and I'm like, oh, well, I guess I'll follow in the pack. Right. Which I would have had a different thought process then. But now they got me at a weight class where I go and get my DEXA scan checked, my bones, and my meal plan's based on my body. We're not selling this crazy nutrition plan and pulling 1,000 people in to do the same exact thing. They go and they program my nutrition plan for me,
super custom
based on my density and my bones, my metabolism. They'll hook me up.
So they know exactly what weight you need to be at when you go to fight.
Yeah, they know
it's not like some
weight.
super extreme, crazy where your bones are dehydrated or.
Hell, if I went to cut weight today, I'm probably 205. I don't know where it goes. Don't ask me. But when I get on the scale, it says 205. Scale's talking crap. But
what do you usually fight at?
171 or 170. But I'm cutting weight. I'm already in shape, and I'm cutting weight from like 186. Right. So that's where my weight cut's actually at. If I had to cut weight and be in shape in 2 weeks, I wouldn't make that right now, just because I'm not in shape. But I've learned if I'm in shape, I'm hydrated, and I'm eating my nutrition, and I want to eat good because I feel that bad gas in my system in practice. If I'm sitting on the couch, great. I'll kill the Doritos and the Oreos.
Right.
Want to bring Oreos? Bring Oreos. 10 at a time. Go. Right?
Right.
But I don't have to worry about that when I'm sitting on the couch playing Xbox, right?
Right, yeah, exactly.
Or watching the next girl Netflix because my wife's all into the cuddle movies. But they've really helped, and when I say they, the Performance Institute and the experts there have really tried to help make ourselves better.
Right. So, and it kind of brings a level of knowledge. And that's one of the things I think, especially with martial arts, is how there's a learning mindset. Like you're always constantly wanting to learn more.
Right.
You don't have, and I think business owners need to get that. You don't have a fixed mindset. If you do, you're done.
Right.
And especially in you're always wanting to know what the latest thing's going on, and then your mind is always wanting to learn.
In my mind, yes. But talking from a business standpoint, or in this case, an athlete standpoint, which I'm always thinking they're the business, right? You're your business and as an athlete. When you get to a point where you're not learning and you're being uncoachable, right? That's also poison, and that's all where you can't take responsibility on yourself and be like, oh, that was my issue, right?
Good,
I got knocked on my ass in my last fight. It wasn't my coaching, it wasn't my wrestling, it was I got overzealous and I ran in stupid. That's my fault.
Right.
Now I'm in the gym. I'm doing this cognitive work with my brain, reaction drills and timing and seeing things coming at me. That's my fault, and I will fix that. And we can't be successful if we don't take our blame, own it, get better about it.
Yeah, no, I think that's so great. And that's what you call humility. I mean, being humble.
Good work.
Good work. Yeah, exactly. And I think especially in your arena, being a mixed martial arts athlete, if you don't have that, if you don't have humility, I mean, I always tell people most MMA fighters are pretty humble people, because I mean, you can know at any moment something can go down, in a bad way, like at a fight or whatever. So all you know to do is train and be what you need to be and try to be at the best when you come out. So this last fight, like your mindset, like when you go, you've had a lot of fights underneath you. What are you thinking at when it's like go time? Like when, like the night before, or are you calm? Are you like not sleeping? How does that process go?
All of it goes, it's gotten better.
Right.
Knowing how to deal with anxiety. Since this fight happened, I started working with a lady named Vera Jo Bustos. She works with the, if she hears this, she's going to be mad. She works with the Lady Lobos. She's an assistant over there of some sort. I'm getting right out of strength conditioning, so I've got my butt kicked today on my own, but don't beat me up when you see me, okay? Coach VJ. So Miss Bustos helps with mental building, right? How to handle situations in stressful situations, right? How to think differently and get the I don'ts and the I can'ts out of my brain and thinking. So for me, since I broke my leg when I'm going to do my rehab, I'm having like these little snapshots or whatever of negative and me falling, breaking my leg away. They're quick. They come and go, right? And I don't want to take that with me to a fight. My confidence issue hasn't been an issue going into fights. Right. This is the first time I've had to sit out due to an injury and actually sit and be patient and take my time.
Right.
Watch everybody else work out. And that's been very humbling, and the things I don't want to take for granted and where my window is on wanting to retire, right? So you get fans talking to me about those things. Well, you're ready to retire. I have that hunger there and I feel my body's coming back strong.
Right.
And I'm doing the work, which they had me in a cast 2 weeks, had me out of the cast, range of motion, had a protractor up there. It was awful. It hurt. And then we got through that. We got through that time frame, that time frame. So my life has been based on adversity, and my mind and my life has been based on pain. And I've always been able to dust myself off, find my responsibility in what I did wrong, own it, and move forward. And that's where I'm feeling going into where I want to fight in November. I am hungry. I'm already back in practice. Doctor's supposed to clear me to start throwing kicks here in September, the last week of August of this month.
So, like you said, those little negative thought processes, because we all get those. But it's almost like a fear because you broke your foot. So, and then trying to when you first started out, your first rehab, it's like being afraid to put pressure on it. And, now, like you said, kicks, that's even.
Yeah. So I broke my ankle and my fibula. So I have a little bit of, hardware in there. I guess we'll call it that. Not cool like RoboCop, but it's in there. Yeah. So that when they have me taking my foot right out of the cast right away, I was having those doubts. I thought it was way too early, They're moving it and pulling it, and they're explaining to me about, they're using water as the example. Stagnant water builds up and gets bacteria and nasty. You can't drink it. If we find that running stream, even if we're in the wild, that would be safe to drink, right? It's strong. It's going to help. It's going to have nutrition and all those minerals in it that we need to stay alive, right? So it made sense to me that way. And the more I stuck to the pattern, I stuck to the process, I'm actually feeling good. I broke my foot 3 years ago in Brazil and had a a nerve contusion. I did some rehab or whatever, but I should have had surgery then. And I did it in my head. I can't take breaks. It's only sore because I'm using it, right? When in reality, you got to really listen to your body. And I'm learning, right? It comes with the territory. But in this instance, I've forced myself the due process, do what I'm being told by the people that know more than I do.
Right. That's good.
And,
that's so good, yeah.
It's working. My leg is still kind of stiff and sore, but I'm already wrestling and grappling and light kicking, nothing crazy there. Strength conditioning plus the recovery work and the way just to think differently. Working with Coach VJ over at the pit at UNM.
So she has you going through a process of is it mainly mental or?
Well, on these ones we started off with that sheet of paper you have right there, that yellow sheet right there. One side is my fears. And the other ones are my goals, and being just completely honest, not trying to be the macho man. What am I afraid of? Right. What are the things that stick out?
So just admitting those fears.
Yeah, admitting those fears. And, I'm a guy that I come from an old school background. Men don't talk about their problems. We don't cry and all that. I still feel we shouldn't cry.
Right.
Sometimes to get you,
Right.
But just a different way to, I guess, not think about it, but to admit it. Put it out there. Put it on tape. Let you see it. Right. And so, hey, I'm not scared of that. Right. I'm going to go get it done because I am kind of scared of that. So I'm going to go do it, right? that stuff has been working. You
so
know?
like visually, like taking it from your mind and then making it very clear and getting it on paper.
Yeah.
And then the other
works.
side, you said to have the goals?
Had goals and where I was at in 10. Well, they started with short, medium, and long-term goals.
Right.
Anywhere from a year, well, I guess 6 months to 10 years, right? And I'm still adding to that. My list hasn't really stopped. I've been adding some things, which I don't want to share my things just yet because I'm still doing the unsure thing. But my list hasn't stopped growing. I got another session here in a couple weeks with Vera. They've been over in Europe, the Go Lobos over in Europe playing basketball.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's cool, man. So I got tied up with Vera from our coach Vera from Coach Yvonne Sanchez. That's with Michigan Wolverines now, but got a good support system with Yvonne, and that lady knows basketball, and we talked earlier about my girls getting to be basketball players, and got them on that route.
Yeah. And then I think something that's so important with that is that no matter how much physical work you do, the mental is where a lot of the stuff in life is a mental game.
It really is, man. I've seen my life has been fighting. It's been athletes. It's been being involved, not just reading something out of a book or watching a film and going, oh, I can do that, right? And it's where the military sees the most problems with stuff is. Somebody can do a test real good, but once it comes to apply the situation or the skill set, apply that skill set, they fall short on it, right?
Right.
So I've been putting the time and I've been getting in the ring. I know how to coach fighters based on how they're going to feel walking out, how they're going to feel in 2 weeks.
Right.
Where those emotions, anxiety. I got guys and girls that right before they walk out, they're going and throwing up. Mm-hmm. We don't want to be, first off, you're dehydrating yourself.
Right.
First off. Secondly, you don't need to be that worked up. You got to deal with those problems prior to getting to the war zone, the baseball game, whatever we want to call it.
Right.
The office.
Being able to, and there's a process of that, handling it before you actually get
absolutely. Couldn't have said it any better. Process of handling it.
Right.
And I feel that's where, hate to get off topic about the whole shooting stuff going on, but they've got so many safe places for these young women and these young men that they don't have to deal with their problems. They're coming out of these high schools to real life that doesn't pat you on the bottom and say, come here, I'm Santa, I'm going to give you a gift. Right. We have to deal with our problems, and we don't deal with them, we react crazy. We're climbing clock towers, or in this case, walking in schools.
I know, it's horrific.
It's been crazy, and it's because we're not dealing with our personal issues.
Right, and I think if you're, this is my personal opinion on it. We'll stay on this topic for a second, but if you've gone through your whole life and someone has told you, you're the best, it's okay, regardless if you're bad or good. There has to be consequences to doing things that are wrong. Right. You know what I mean? Yep. And you have to learn from that. Yep. But if you're not allowed to learn from that, and then when you do something wrong, somebody picks you up and tells you it's fine and it's good, don't worry about it, you're the best. I think our philosophy has gone wrong, and then in turn we're seeing, I know there's a lot of mental illness and stuff, but we're seeing this whole dynamic of these kids coming out with, that's got to be, I don't know what it is. Is it the anger or, what's inside of them?
They haven't truly tested themselves in anything. They haven't put all their marbles into the game to test failure and have to crawl up on their horse and start over again. Right. And I can say this freely, and this is my own personal opinion, but I can say this freely because I've been on both sides of that spectrum. I sit here with a bullet hole in my leg today because I allowed people to put me on the pedestal. I already started creating I was a good fighter. I was going to be the next champ, and people put me on this pedestal that I didn't deserve to be on. And I stopped doing the work that got me to that point. And I stopped.
And the ego and stuff
and the ego and all this. And then I started realizing that I wasn't that guy. And I wound up getting shot, and I wound up getting addicted to the painkillers. I let it all spiral out of control because I hadn't had to deal with failure. I didn't deal with it. I was always able to blame people. I was always able to point the finger, and it was your fault. I had a real good time to sit from 05 to 09 and think about what I was doing wrong and where I was leading my nieces and nephews on how they thought my stuff was cool. And I felt like I was really poisoning my family with that, leading the horse to the water and hold its poison. And that was me. That was my fault. I didn't know where my daughters were. I didn't know where they were because I chose to go a different route and be this dummy. I'm sitting in a jail cell, in a prison cell. So self-admittance and me looking myself in the mirror and not being able to lie to myself really made me think a different way. And I got out running, and I'm still learning today. I'm still learning right now on how to be a parent, on how to approach things, but I'm the wrong person. I don't sugarcoat things, and, that sometimes gets me in trouble. So I'm learning how to work on that.
No, I love that. We're going to take a quick break real quick, and then we're going to come back, and we'll do like another 20 minutes or something if that's fine with you. Yeah. And then I want to get a little bit more into the fighting, but I love that. That was like super gold. I appreciate that, Tim. I'll be right back.
Join us this week for another episode of the Albuquerque Business Podcast with your host, Jason Rigby. Each week, he interviews leading local business leaders that inspire the vision and spirit in every entrepreneur, discussing strengths, weakness, strategies, systems, and the problems we can all solve together to fulfill a shared vision of a new future for Albuquerque. Listen or download this Sunday afternoon at 4 from your favorite podcasting app.
And we're back. This is Jason Rigby with the Albuquerque Business Podcast. We have Tim Dirty Bird, and let's get everybody again, because I want everybody to go to your Instagram and Twitter. What is your Instagram?
Instagram, Tim Dirty Bird.
And then your Twitter is?
@meanstim.
Perfect. And something we just got done talking about, and I think it's so interesting, especially here in Albuquerque, is, and I want to talk like with parents and stuff like that. If you have a child that maybe is angry or showing interest, I mean, you were just talking about, you've got these kids that are coming and they're going out on the streets and they're fighting on Central and
absolutely.
stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Montgomery Park, they're fighting all over Albuquerque. They're posting on social media. It's not like it's like parents are going, oh, that's not my kid. Well, yeah, look at your kid's social media. I bet you there's some stuff on there that's not supposed to be there.
Right, yeah. But what would you tell like a parent maybe if they're kind of maybe a little afraid to put their child into, he's showing like, or she's showing a ton of interest going into MMA? What would you tell them?
I would say do the homework, find the right gym to put your kid in. We deal with kids with anxiety problems and depression, and these kids they don't have an outlet to speak, or they're too shy, right? That's been a big one. So we help teach these kids courage or self-confidence, their ability just to speak, right? And talk to one another. And I can relate to those things because I got that out of myself with exercise, and heck, I lucked out and it turned into a sport, but we can do this with basketball or whatever. I worked out to vent my stress in my brain into where I'm not going and getting in the car mad and getting in fights in the street out here, or Walmarts or whatever the case was back when I was younger. So as an adult, I still have those same anger problems, and those things still flicker in my head, but I'm able to vent. Right. And that's been my biggest thing to succeed, is I'm able to keep those demons in check. And I never understood the saying that idle hands are the devil's playground.
Right.
I used to have an older lady telling me this constantly, and it didn't click until I was on the outside pretty much looking in at myself and was like, oh man, not staying active, not being creative, not coloring my picture really, or painting my picture. Those were the things that was getting me in trouble because I wasn't venting that negative stuff out of my brain. So for parents that have a kid that's not able to speak or come out of their shell, or the shy thing, or the anxiety or the depression, we welcome those kids at the gym. And we've been running a program for years now that has succeeded in watching these kids come out of their shell, if you will, and find a newfound love with life. It seems like these kids get so bored. I'm dealing with a young man right now that's suicidal, and he's saying that he just doesn't want to be here no more. He's bored. He doesn't want to be here. And when you ask him, well, what'd you do today? It's, I drank a 12-pack of Coke and I watched 40 movies. You know what I mean? It's,
right.
Well, let's get those hands active. Let's get something that
he has purpose.
A purpose. That's a great way to say it.
And then there's rules. Yep. Like with MMA, there's still rules. I mean, you're fighting, but at the end of the day, there's rules for them to follow. And then they can get a win.
Yeah, and then they start to believe in themselves and realize that they're not made of glass. I'm not saying getting kicked and hit needs to be happening all the time, but with the kids I'm watching right now, the kids that right here in this city, right here in my city, our city, these kids are in the middle of the streets throwing donuts, stopping the freeway with their cars and trucks to do donuts, and then they hop out and they start throwing blows in the middle of the intersection. These are teenage kids. These are kids, and I think in gym life for them just finding a skill set to get behind. And I like to watch Will Smith when he does his motivational speaking. He talks a lot about your skill set and finding your place.
Right.
And you can't do that if you don't take the chances to fail a little bit. You got to take a chance to see what you're good at and not good at, what you like to do, what you don't like to do. And that's where I think I've done a lot of my own growth, is keeping myself busy and active, and just being thankful.
Yeah, it's just so crazy. I mean, we have these kids and they're all like hyped up on all this junk food, and then they're literally sitting at home all day. It's like, I hate to make this reference, but you can see it with pets that you have when they sit around all day long.
Yeah,
and they don't. Point. You gotta run. You gotta get out. You gotta, like you said, like water. You gotta get that river flowing.
Yep, absolutely.
You can't be stagnant.
It was the best way I was able to understand that. Also, was the water just made good sense. You could even look at it and be like, oh, I'm gonna drink nothing out of that puddle. You see that cool stream, and you're like, oh, that's a great analogy. Good job.
Yeah, I love that. One of the things I wanted to ask you, I've always wanted to ask a UFC fighter this, is like breath, like breathing. in like breath work? Because that's so important. Like, I know you can watch. Do you guys train for that, or what is like? I mean, how does that work? Like, I know if you like, you can watch a fighter, know if they're.
Yeah, you bet. If you're a high-level athlete, you're focusing on breathing. I don't care what sport you're in. You have to breathe in and breathe out. And watching these guys that come in with the big old arms and the weights and can move a house, them boys get tired because they stop breathing. And breathing is just as much of a skill set and a tool. In my business, breathing is your skill. You better breathe or you're going to suffocate. Yeah, you know, it's like being stuck in a choke, except you're doing it to yourself.
Oh, wow. I never even thought about it that way. Yeah, because I think a lot of times, especially when we get into stressful situations, whether you're, you know, negotiating with the contract in business, or whether you know, have to talk to that employee and fire them, or whatever it may be, that I noticed that with me, I stopped breathing.
Yeah.
You know, so now, did they train you to work through that, or what do you do? Do you just have to, you know, like just close your eyes, focus, and breathe, or how does that go?
Trial and error. I had to learn to remember when you're in the heat of the moment, you're moving real fast. Continue to breathe. Remember to breathe.
Right.
Calm. Breathe. Right. But I was able to get in a swimming pool. And I worked with a lady named Mama D. She's actually going all over the place, riding her motorcycle, 50 different states. Got her book out right now.
Oh, that's
She's got
cool.
2 motorcycles in the Hall of Fame over there for herself. One was a bike rider. So
that sounds like a cool person.
Yeah, Mama D. So I got in the pool with her and just learned how to, when my head popped out, took the breath. When it went under, I was controlling that breath. Sometimes you had to go down in one shot. So I got a buddy named Gabe that I continue to work with on those things, more in fight camp than I currently am doing now.
Right,
but yeah, that really helped me when I'm stuck in tight spots, getting choked or whatever, how to just calm myself and you get that little bit
is it the breath that calms you, or do you have to also, you know, like, I know, like with jiu-jitsu or whatever, you know, you could get real claustrophobic real quick.
Yeah.
Or wrestling. Like when you're in that situation, like when you're experiencing that much pressure, you know, you're feeling like, you know, they don't have a full choke on you, but you're feeling claustrophobic. How do you calm yourself mentally?
Just breathe. Like everything's about that breath. You know, just take your breath and move on. So if we're standing, you're going to take a breath and put one foot in front of the other. If you're scrambling, you're going to take your breath and scramble. And when you're in the middle of scrambling, you're breathing. It's not like I'm getting these little short, quick breaths. I'm just breathing normally. Remember to keep the flow going and keep the scramble. When you disengage, step back, get a big breath in before you go back into that dang battlefield again. You know what I mean? But as a veteran, it makes sense to me on when to slow my breath, speed up my breath, all that good stuff.
And now if you guys watch a UFC fight, you will pay attention to that. You can watch their breathing, you know, when they're on the mat, and then when they're in those situations, you'll be able to see that. But I think it's for all of life. When you go into a situation that's a pressure situation, calm yourself. Don't let those emotions go crazy. Take a deep breath, you know, and get in that right mental state, and then approach the situation.
Yeah, a common one for me that's worked is just breathe. You know,
that's cool. Yeah, that's super cool. And then, like one of the things I want to talk to you about, like fighters especially, is being present. Like you got to be. I know when you're fighting, there's no greater moment than. I mean, you're like literally not thinking about anything else because you're so into the moment when you're in the ring. You know, but like being present, like being right at that. A lot of people have never experienced that. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I have a fight that sticks out real well with Diego Lima. I fought at the Staples Center in L.A. You know, you're where the LA Lakers play and all the crazy talent that's been in that stadium. I remember looking up at the big screen. There was my face, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm here." Yeah, I'm like looking around, you know, and it was such a surreal moment, and a moment where I found clarity in myself. That, you know, it was quite a bit of road from when I got out of my jail stuff, my trouble. It was a good distance past that part.
Right.
I was able to look back and be like, "Man, my life has changed." And it's changed for the better, you know. So, and the other negative side of that is, as being a fighter, you have to miss birthday. Well, not all birthdays, but you have to miss going out, you know, whatever with your friends, or sometimes you can't get to an uncle's birthday in another state or whatever because you're in training camp. So I guess you can't miss some birthdays. But missing those events and having to stay true to yourself, not a lot of people. Not everybody get on board with that. Some people think you're starting to be selfish, or you're only thinking for yourself, and
it's just a dedication that you have to have.
It's dedication, and you have to think like that because, and in my opinion, the other person that you're going to be standing across that signed that same contract is thinking like that. So.
Yeah, exactly. And like when you're in the fight, is it the whole time? Are you like, what's your thought process? Is it like just focused right there 110%? Like, is your brain doing anything else, or is it?
You know,
Or do you not, like some people don't even remember they're fighting.
Yeah, I guess there's a few fights I didn't remember at all, but the more I've done it and the more I was able to keep myself calm in the situation. Right. So that wasn't happening right away. Heck, my first 20 fights probably, I don't remember everything that was going on. But
I was in the Marine Corps, and when you're in battle, it's the same scenario. Because you're like, you train so much.
Yep.
I mean, it's the same thing. You're in like, they call it a flow state, but you're in like this flow state, and I don't remember some stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just crazy. But if you you can watch the footage and you could be like, obviously, I knew what I was like. Your training took over.
Yeah, you remember bits and pieces of what's going on. Right. So, those are moments you have to deal with. You have to train those moments for yourself. So everybody thinks we'll go back to fighting again. Everyone thinks it's about punching and kicking. No, man, you have to train your mind to how you're going to react when you're there. Because in everybody's head, when shit pops off, in their head, they're going to react like a badass.
Right. Exactly.
On the other side of that spectrum, I would say 75% of those people will fail. Because when shit hits the fan, not everybody's a hero.
Yeah, exactly. Or they're just letting ego take over.
Right.
You know, and you will always fail in that.
So for me, man, like the way I look at it is I dropped out of high school, right? I dropped out of high school when I was 17 or 16. I'm not going across the street and giving my buddy medical advice and being a doctor. You know, I don't have that degree. Right. He asked me a question. I'm like, you should probably go see a doctor.
Right.
And ask them their opinion, right? So when I get people that are watching YouTube and then saying that they can be a coach and drilling and doing these things, those aren't the people that I can really get behind on knowing the scenario of anxiety and the feeling of going into your ball game, your battle, whatever it is.
Right.
They don't know those true feelings and they can't teach that.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things I've learned from you guys, especially with fighters, is that improvement isn't linear. You know, it's not like you just can't train and it just keeps going up progressive. And I think entrepreneurs and business owners need to learn that too. I mean, literally, if you looked at how much you've improved and where you're at in your life, and especially on the fighting side of things with all the training you've done, it's ups and downs. I mean, it's zigzags. And
there's a great meme. I don't know if it's a meme, but a photo on social media or the internet that I'd seen of a glacier sitting on top, and under the water, right? There's all these failures and all these pieces of the iceberg. And then on top is little pieces of the iceberg and just a couple spots of success.
Right.
That couldn't be more real. And people are like talking about, you know, a couple of these little individuals I'm working with now, the ones that are like, oh, I don't even want to try no more because the failing is too much.
Right.
Well, I have failed and failed and failed and failed. I probably failed 40 times this week already. What are we at, Wednesday? But that little bit of success is so rewarding. It's so good, you know, and that's worth chasing for me. So there's those moments. My favorite moment of being a professional fighter, my favorite moment is in all the buildup, all the anxiety. Once the fight is over, there's that feeling like you've been on a lake and the water's not moving. It's just still. Everything's paused in life. That's the feeling I chase.
Yeah.
And you can't do that unless you're willing to fail. And even in failure, even in the fights I've lost in, when I'm done, I'm like, man, I got in there and tried my best.
Right.
Did it go my way? No. But they know my name.
It didn't matter of the outcome so much. I mean, that's important, but it didn't matter that they raised your hand at the end. What mattered is that you knew that you did your best.
Yeah, it matters when you get a couple less checks. Right? You're like, oh, that sucks.
Monetarily wise.
That hits the ego a little bit. But for you to sit there and be completely true and honest to yourself, that's a good feeling.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, we're going to close here pretty soon. But on the failure side of thing, I think that's so important. People will fail 2 or 3 times and they give up.
Yeah.
You know, we give up way too quickly. And I think the iceberg is perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, and I saw that, and that really helped me. So if you guys are listening out there, you know, there's a little video or there's a little photo online of a failure with an iceberg description or an iceberg image, and man, that was just so true to me. It's something that really stuck out to myself. If you go, I have it on my social media. You can find it in the videos and the photos I have on there. But failure isn't the end of the world, and that failure makes you tough.
Yeah, and I think in martial arts, there's a book by John Maxwell called Failing Forward.
Yeah,
I think that's pretty much what you do. You're just failing forward.
Yeah, you know, I hadn't heard of that, but that's outstanding. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and so, well, cool. It's been awesome having you on here, Tim. We'll have to have you on here again maybe when you get closer to, you know, with your time schedules. I know that, but you're wanting to fight in November, you said?
Yeah, I want to fight in November, and I've taken that up with my doctors and my rehab team. I was hoping for October.
Right.
They're going to clear me in September. I'm already training right now, but they are more comfortable with November. So I'm going to listen because they know more than me.
Right.
And I'm going to do my best just to be in the best shape I can and follow protocol.
That's awesome. Yeah, well, I appreciate it. I encourage everybody to follow you. You're local. You're Albuquerque. It's been great. I've learned a lot from you. I love following you. What's the fishing thing you got going on? That's really cool. I saw you were like holding a bass.
Just whenever I can fish with the family. We have to break away to spots here and drive pretty far, but family out in Oklahoma, we go and see them and just get to know them. A lot of my cousins and sisters and mom and dad are out there, so I go back to where I was born and. Right. My sister lives right there, and you can walk across the street and there's water. So
that's cool.
They have the cool big mouth bass and all the cool catfishing at night, and we're catching turtles and frogs, and we love to do those things. So I like to post it and put it out there, and just let my family know that I do enjoy their moments.
Oh, okay, that's awesome. Well, thanks, Tim. I really appreciate it, and like I said, follow him. We'll look forward to your fight when you announce it.
Yeah, and hopefully November.
I know you've got a couple other announcements coming up that we can't share, but you'll be sharing those really soon. I think it'll be exciting, not just for you, but for the community here in Albuquerque.
Yeah, I am ecstatic with what we have going on. New gym, Fit in HB on Candelaria and 12th Street. We'll be there first part of September, or right when September starts. And we got a great thing for the community and the youth in our program. Can't wait to announce it.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks, Tim. Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us on the Albuquerque Business Podcast. And thank you to our sponsor, DukeCityMarketing.com. Please go to abqpodcast.com where you can get show notes, resources, and links to everything we talked about today to help you navigate your journey as an entrepreneur and business owner in Albuquerque.